Love doesn't usually disappear all at once. It fades quietly, in the small things, in the way someone stops reaching for your hand, in the silence between conversations, in the look in their eyes that no longer holds the same warmth. Emotional detachment doesn't always come with loud fights or dramatic exits. Sometimes it arrives like a slow, silent drift, and by the time you notice it, you're already feeling it in your bones. You begin to wonder when things changed. Was it something you did? Something you didn't do? You replay old moments in your head, comparing how things used to be to how they are now. And even though he's still there, present in the same room, something about him feels different, distant, closed off, like you're reaching for someone who's already halfway gone. The worst part, he might not even admit it. He might say everything's fine, insist that nothing is wrong. But his actions tell another story, a quieter one, a more honest one. Love used to show up in how he spoke to you, touched you, made time for you. Now, love feels like a memory, and presence feels like absence. You feel the shift in ways you can't always explain, in how the air between you feels heavier, in how you second-guess your own worth, in how the emotional connection you once relied on now feels broken. It's confusing, it's painful, and it leaves you wondering, is it just a phase? Or is he slowly letting go? Emotional detachment doesn't always look like betrayal. Sometimes it's just the slow death of interest, the lack of effort, the disappearing curiosity. He no longer asks how you're doing. He doesn't listen like he used to. He starts forgetting the little things that used to matter. And most of all, you start to feel like you're in the relationship alone, holding on while he's already slipping away. But here's the truth. Emotional detachment is not your fault. It's not a sign that you're unlovable or that you didn't try hard enough. Sometimes people outgrow their emotions. Sometimes they struggle internally and don't know how to say it. And sometimes they're just too afraid to admit they no longer feel the same way. Still, you deserve clarity. You deserve someone who chooses you with intention, not someone who fades out quietly while you're still trying to hold on. Recognizing the signs of emotional detachment isn't about blaming or chasing. It's about understanding what's really happening beneath the surface. So if you're feeling the weight of distance in a relationship that used to feel like home, pay attention, because the signs are always there, in the silence, in the shift, in the spaces between words. Here are 12 signs he's starting to emotionally detach. And if they sound familiar, it might be time to face what your heart already knows. 1. He stops opening up about his day. When he stops opening up about his day, it's not just about missing small talk. It's a shift in emotional connection. In the beginning, he might have shared everything, from what he had for lunch to how stressful the meeting was. But now, there's silence. You ask how his day went, and all you get is a bland, "It was fine," or "Nothing much happened." It feels like a wall has gone up between you, one that wasn't there before. This kind of emotional distancing isn't always loud. It's quiet, subtle. It shows up in skipped conversations and a lack of presence. You notice that he doesn't bring you into his world anymore. He doesn't share thoughts, frustrations, or even the little wins that used to make you both smile. It's like he's slowly removing you from the story of his life, page by page. And the silence? It starts to feel heavier than arguments, because at least arguments mean there's still emotion, still something to fight for. But silence, especially in a relationship that once felt full of life, feels like absence. It feels like goodbye in slow motion. When someone stops opening up, it doesn't always mean they've stopped caring entirely, but it usually means they're pulling away emotionally. And in a relationship, emotional presence is everything. Without it, love starts to feel one-sided. You're still there, still holding on, but it feels like they've already left. 2. Conversations become dry and short. When conversations become dry and short, it's often a reflection of emotional distance growing between two people. Where there was once energy, curiosity, and connection, there's now only routine replies and disinterest. You might find yourself asking questions just to keep things going, only to get one-word answers or half-hearted nods in return. The flow that used to come naturally is gone, replaced with awkward silences and a feeling that you're bothering him just by trying to talk. It's not just the words that change, it's the tone. There's no warmth, no laughter, no follow-up questions. He doesn't ask how you're doing anymore, and when you share something important, it feels like it barely lands with him. It's like talking to someone who's physically present, but emotionally far away. This shift can be incredibly painful because it makes you question everything. You wonder if you're boring, if you said something wrong, or if he simply doesn't care anymore. But deep down, you know it's not about what you're saying. It's about how he's no longer trying. When conversations lose their spark, it's often a sign that the emotional connection is fading. And if it's not addressed, silence can grow where love once lived. A relationship without real communication slowly stops feeling like a partnership and starts feeling like you're alone, even when you're together. 3. He avoids eye contact. When he starts avoiding eye contact, it's more than just a habit. It's a quiet sign that something inside him is shifting. Eye contact is one of the most powerful ways people connect emotionally. In healthy relationships, those silent glances often say more than words ever could. But when he can't meet your eyes anymore, it can feel like he's hiding, withdrawing, or protecting himself from facing the truth, or from letting you see it. You might notice it in small moments. While talking, he looks at his phone, the TV, the floor, anywhere but your face. Even during intimate or serious conversations, his eyes drift away. It might seem subtle at first, but over time, it begins to feel like you're being shut out, like he doesn't want you to see what he's thinking, or worse, he doesn't care if you do. Avoiding eye contact often signals discomfort, guilt, emotional detachment, or a desire to disconnect. It creates a wall where there used to be a bridge. It makes even the most honest words feel empty because there's no connection behind them. And when someone you love starts looking away from your face, your feelings, your presence, it hurts in ways that are hard to explain. In those quiet moments, the ones where his eyes won't meet yours, you feel it. The love is changing. And sometimes, that silence between two eyes says everything. 4. Physical affection decreases. When physical affection starts to decrease, it often speaks louder than words. Touch is one of the most basic ways humans express love. A simple hug, holding hands, a kiss on the forehead. These small gestures carry emotional weight. They say, I'm here, I see you, I still care. But when those gestures fade, the emotional distance becomes hard to ignore. You start noticing the absence. He no longer reaches for your hand when you're walking side by side. The spontaneous hugs disappear. Cuddling becomes rare, and kisses feel more like routine than passion. What once came naturally now feels forced, or doesn't happen at all. And the worst part is, you feel the shift not just on your skin, but deep in your heart. Physical affection isn't just about attraction, it's about connection. It's the way two people stay close, especially during hard times. So when he stops touching you like he used to, it sends a message. Something has changed. Maybe he's distracted, emotionally overwhelmed, or quietly pulling away. Whatever the reason, you feel it. In the silence of a night without a goodnight kiss, in the space between you on the couch, in the way he turns away instead of toward you. The absence of affection can make you feel unwanted, undesired, unloved. And even though no one says it out loud, your body knows when love starts to fade. Because sometimes it's not the words that change first, it's the touch that disappears. 5. He spends more time on his phone than with you. When he starts spending more time on his phone than with you, it's one of those small shifts that hurts more than you expect. At first, it might seem harmless, a few extra minutes checking messages or scrolling through social media. But then it becomes a pattern. You're sitting beside him, but his attention is somewhere else, lost in a screen. You speak, but he only half listens, his eyes fixed on the glow of his phone instead of your face. It's not just about the phone, it's about the choice. Every time he picks it up, over-engaging with you, it sends a quiet message. You're not my priority right now. And over time, that message gets louder. Meals are filled with silence, not conversation. Moments that used to be shared are now split between you and a screen. You feel like you're competing for his attention and losing. What hurts the most isn't the distraction, it's the disconnection. You miss the way he used to look at you, talk to you, laugh with you. Now, even when he's physically near, it feels like his mind is a million miles away. And in a relationship, emotional presence matters just as much as physical presence. When someone chooses their phone over real connection again and again, it creates distance. Not just in space, but in spirit. Because being ignored doesn't always come from loud arguments. Sometimes it comes in quiet moments where a screen gets more love than you do. 6. He no longer checks in on how you're feeling. When he no longer checks in on how you're feeling, it creates a silence that feels heavier than words. In a loving relationship, the simple act of asking, "How are you really doing?" is a sign of care, of presence, of emotional intimacy. It's how two people stay connected, even when life gets busy or messy. But when those check-ins stop, it starts to feel like you're going through things alone, even when you're not physically alone. You notice it gradually. You could be quiet, withdrawn, or visibly upset, and he doesn't ask. He doesn't notice when your tone changes or when you're holding back tears. Maybe he used to ask you how your day went, how you slept, how you've been coping. But now, it's silence. You might still be asking about his feelings, still showing up for him, still making space. But he no longer does the same for you. And that absence isn't just disappointing, it's deeply painful. It makes you feel invisible in the relationship, like your emotions no longer matter, like your presence is just part of the background. You start to question whether he even sees you the same way he once did, whether he still cares at all. Love isn't just shown in grand gestures. It's in the small moments where we stop, listen, and make someone feel seen. So when those moments disappear, the love begins to feel like it's fading too. 7. He doesn't initiate plans anymore. When he stops initiating plans, it can feel like the relationship is slowly slipping through your fingers. In the beginning, he probably made an effort, suggesting dates, texting first, asking when he could see you next. It made you feel wanted, like spending time with you was something he looked forward to. But now, that effort is gone. You're the one always reaching out, making the plans, keeping things alive. You start noticing that if you don't suggest meeting up, it simply doesn't happen. Days, maybe even weeks go by without him making a move. You try to justify it. Maybe he's busy, tired, stressed, but deep down, you feel the difference. It's not just the lack of plans, it's the lack of excitement, of presence, of desire to be close. This shift makes you feel one-sided in the relationship, like you're chasing something that used to come naturally. It hurts when you realize that the person who once made you feel prioritized now makes you feel optional. It's not always about big fights or dramatic exits. Sometimes love fades in the quiet way someone stops showing up. When someone truly wants you in their life, they make time, not excuses. So when he no longer initiates plans, it's not just about scheduling, it's about effort. And when the effort disappears, the connection begins to feel fragile, distant, and painfully unbalanced. 8. He gets irritated easily over small things. When he starts getting irritated easily over small things, it's often a reflection of deeper emotional distance. The things that used to make him smile, your habits, your jokes, even your presence, now seem to annoy him. You might notice him snapping over simple questions, sighing when you speak, or reacting harshly to things that wouldn't have bothered him before. It feels like you're walking on eggshells, afraid that anything you say or do might trigger a cold response. This change is confusing and painful. You're not sure what shifted or why the warmth disappeared, but suddenly, the relationship feels tense. The safe space you once shared now feels like a place where you have to be cautious, quiet, careful. His patience has thinned, and instead of feeling close to him, you start to feel like a burden. Often, this kind of irritation isn't about the small things at all. It's about growing emotional disconnection. He may not be expressing what's really going on inside, so it leaks out in frustration. And instead of talking about what he's feeling, he withdraws further, making you feel like you are the problem, when in reality, the issue is the distance building between you both. It's heartbreaking when love turns into resentment. When the same person who once adored every part of you now seems annoyed by your presence. And it's in these quiet moments of tension where you start to feel the love fading. Not loudly, but sharply, painfully. And with every sigh, he lets out. 9. He stops saying, "I love you" first. When he stops saying, "I love you" first, it may seem like a small thing, but in a relationship, those 3 words carry weight. They're not just a habit, they're a signal of connection, of reassurance, of continued effort. In the beginning, he used to say it without hesitation. Sometimes randomly, sometimes softly, just because. But now, you notice the silence. He waits for you to say it first. And sometimes, he doesn't say it back at all. You start feeling the change. At first, you brush it off. Maybe he's tired, maybe distracted. But it keeps happening. You say, "I love you," and he just nods. Or he mumbles a reply without looking at you. And slowly, those words begin to feel like a test. Will he say it back? Will he mean it? You begin to dread the silence that follows something that used to feel so full of meaning. When love starts to fade, it often disappears in subtle ways. And not saying "I love you" is one of them. It's the emotional temperature dropping, a sign that he's no longer as invested, no longer reaching for connection. You feel the gap growing between you, even in moments that are supposed to be intimate. Because it's not just about saying the words, it's about wanting to. And when someone stops wanting to express love first, it often means their heart is pulling back, even if they're still standing right beside you. He seems mentally absent even when he's with you. When he seems mentally absent, even when he's with you, it creates a kind of loneliness that's hard to describe. He's there, sitting next to you, eating with you, maybe even nodding while you talk. But it's clear his mind is somewhere else. The connection feels hollow. His presence feels more like a shadow than a partner. And you start to feel invisible in a space you used to feel safe in. You talk, but he doesn't really hear you. You share your thoughts or feelings, and he responds with a distracted "yeah" or a delayed reaction that makes it obvious he wasn't fully there. He zones out during conversations, stares at nothing, scrolls through his phone, or looks past you instead of at you. It's like he's physically present out of obligation, not desire. This emotional absence can be even more painful than physical distance. You miss the way he used to listen, how he used to engage with excitement or curiosity. Now, being together feels more like going through the motions. You begin to question yourself. Am I boring? Did I do something wrong? Is he over this? The truth is, mental absence is often a sign that something deeper is wrong, that the emotional connection is weakening, that his heart is no longer fully in it. And when someone starts to check out mentally, it often means they're already halfway gone emotionally. You feel it in the silence, the detachment, and the aching distance, even when he's sitting right next to you. 11. He avoids serious or deep conversations. When he starts avoiding serious or deep conversations, it's a clear signal that he's emotionally pulling away. These kinds of talks about the relationship, the future, feelings, or even things that really matter to you are what create intimacy. They're where real connection grows. But when he begins to dodge those moments, it feels like he's shutting the door on that connection. You notice it when you bring something up that matters to you, and he quickly changes the subject. Or when you try to talk about how you're feeling, and he brushes it off with a joke or gets uncomfortable. Maybe he tells you he doesn't want to argue or says, "Let's not do this now," even when things clearly need to be said. You start to feel like you're talking to a wall, one that keeps getting taller. It becomes emotionally exhausting. You're holding the weight of communication, trying to make space for honesty and growth, while he keeps retreating. And the more he avoids these conversations, the more distant he becomes. It's not just about what's not being said. It's about how unsafe or uninterested he seems in understanding you on a deeper level. When someone stops being willing to go deep, to be vulnerable, to show up in real emotional moments, it's a sign that they're disconnecting, not just from the conversation, but from the relationship itself. And that silence can hurt more than any argument ever could. 12. You feel like you're talking to a stranger. When you start feeling like you're talking to a stranger, it hits you in a quiet, unsettling way. You're still sharing space, maybe even sharing a life. But the connection that once made everything feel familiar now feels foreign. His voice sounds the same. His routines haven't changed much, but something in his energy, his presence, is different. It's distant, cold, unreachable. You try to connect like you used to, maybe with jokes, stories, or little moments you both once loved. But the spark is gone. He doesn't laugh like before. He doesn't ask questions. His replies are vague, empty, or emotionless. It feels like you're talking to someone who used to know you deeply, and now barely skims the surface. You're pouring your heart into a space that no longer holds warmth. This feeling doesn't show up overnight. It builds slowly, first in how he listens less, then in how he shares less, and finally, in how he seems to just exist beside you rather than with you. The silence becomes louder,